The Galactic Empire, an ancient and mighty civilization, created the Great Trial, a series of challenges meant to test the most advanced species in the galaxy. These trials were designed not just to evaluate physical strength, but also to measure mental resilience and emotional endurance. The Empire, after years of observation and preparation, believed the test would reveal the perfect ally for their intergalactic ambitions. Each species that entered the trial was promised a chance to join the Empire as equals, an opportunity to thrive under its protection and power. One by one, species arrived to face the trials. Each confident in their superior technology, advanced societies, and biological enhancements. The first to step up was a race known for their powerful, near-invincible technology. Their society was built on the rapid, precise use of artificial intelligence, spacefaring vehicles, and complex defensive systems. They believed their technology alone could ensure their success. The first test, a series of extreme environmental hazards, seemed simple enough, but their machines faltered under the harsh conditions. The AI they depended on couldn't process the volatility of the hostile terrain. Soon, one by one, the alien warriors were either incapacitated by the natural surroundings or overwhelmed by the unpredictable wildlife. Their leaders, once confident in their superiority, now looked defeated. The Empire watched with disappointment, the first failure of the trials. Next came a highly evolved, telepathic species from the far reaches of the galaxy. This species had long prided itself on their mental acuity and psychic abilities, believing their minds to be their strongest asset. The trials shifted to more psychological testing, mental endurance, the ability to resist mental manipulation, and emotional stability under pressure. The telepathic species stood tall as the challenges began. They believed they would outshine all others. But the trials were ruthless. Illusions twisted their perceptions. Fear and anxiety flooded their minds as the pressure mounted. They cracked under the strain. The telepathic beings, once able to control their thoughts and emotions with ease, were no match for the overwhelming stress that the Empire's trials imposed. Like the first species, they too faltered. Their minds, which had once been their greatest strength, became their downfall. They left in failure, their mental superiority not enough to endure the trials. The third species, a race of powerful, genetically enhanced warriors, had a long history of battle and conquests. They believed that strength and combat prowess were the keys to victory. Their elite soldiers, enhanced by both science and natural evolution, entered the arena ready for any challenge. The physical trials were the most grueling yet. Earth's atmosphere, its toxic terrain, and brutal wildlife seemed simple to them at first. They fought bravely, but it wasn't enough. The Deathworld's unforgiving nature, the very essence of survival, overwhelmed them. The warriors' strength, though formidable, was not enough to defeat the environment. They perished in the harsh conditions. With their loss, the Empire's hopes began to fade, and the idea that anyone could endure these trials seemed to be slipping away. The Empire, now deeply frustrated, was beginning to lose faith in the process. None of the species, despite their advanced technology, psychic abilities, or strength, had been able to pass the tests. It was at this point that the last species, humans, entered the scene. The Empire had no expectations. Humans, often dismissed by other species as primitive, weak, and unrefined, were seen as the ultimate underdogs. They had no advanced technology, no psychic powers, and no genetically enhanced abilities. But the humans' history told a different story. Their homeworld, Earth, was a death world, a planet where survival was a constant battle. They had thrived against all odds, facing predators, famine, and natural disasters. It wasn't their technology that made them formidable, it was their will to survive. As the humans entered the arena, the Empire watched with skepticism. The first trial was a series of grueling physical challenges. The environment was hostile, volatile weather patterns, dangerous wildlife, and terrain designed to kill. The humans, with no advanced weapons or protection, relied on their raw survival instincts. They faced each challenge with an adaptability that none of the other species could match. As the challenges intensified, they laughed. They laughed at the storms, the wild animals, the impossible conditions. Where others saw danger, they saw opportunity. They joked among themselves, using humor to stay focused and calm under pressure. The Empire could hardly comprehend it. Humans were thriving, not by sheer force, but by their sheer will. Next, the humans were tested mentally. They were subjected to emotional manipulation, mind games, and stress-inducing illusions meant to break their spirits. While the telepathic species had crumbled under such pressure, the humans remained unbroken. They were tested with the most profound emotional trials: loss, fear, confusion, and betrayal. But instead of falling into despair or breaking down emotionally, they faced these challenges with unshakable resolve. They talked it out, cracked jokes, and laughed at their own discomfort. The Empire watched in awe. It wasn't just their resilience, it was the joy they found in defiance. The tests continued. Humans faced the toughest of physical challenges, surviving in toxic environments, enduring endless hours without rest, and overcoming seemingly impossible odds. And through it all, they kept laughing. The more the Empire pushed, the more the Deathworlders laughed. They had been forged in a world that was always trying to kill them, and that made them unbreakable. The laughter wasn't born from ignorance, it was born from a deep, unwavering understanding that no matter how difficult the challenge, they could always endure. The Empire, once sure of their own superiority, began to question everything. These so-called primitive humans were surviving better than the most advanced species in the galaxy. They were adapting with ease, finding humor in the face of the unimaginable, and pushing through the toughest trials. By the end of the trials, the humans stood victorious. Not because they had the best technology, the strongest minds, or the most powerful bodies, but because they had something far more potent: a refusal to break, a spirit that refused to be defeated, and a laughter that echoed across the galaxy. The Empire, stunned and in awe, had no choice but to accept the humans as their new allies. They realized that the true measure of strength wasn't in technology or power, it was in the ability to endure, to adapt, and to laugh when all seemed lost. The Deathworlders had not only passed the trials, they had redefined what it meant to be truly unbeatable. The galaxy would never view strength the same way again. And in the end, it was humanity's laughter that left the deepest impression on the Empire and the galaxy at large. The trial began. A race of supreme intelligence and power, the first species to face the Empire's challenges, entered the arena with a sense of confidence that bordered on arrogance. Their advancements in artificial intelligence, technology, and computational prowess had allowed them to dominate other species across the galaxy. Armed with their superior machines and minds, they believed victory was a certainty. The initial physical tests seemed trivial at first. The temperature on the planet shifted dramatically, and the terrain became hostile. The Empire designed these conditions to test the species' adaptability, to see how they would cope with Earth's chaotic environment. The first species, however, failed to adapt quickly enough. Their reliance on machines backfired. The sudden changes in atmosphere caused their technology to malfunction. The systems they trusted couldn't handle the stress of the fluctuating climate. While their minds worked to solve the problem, the physical environment overwhelmed them. The Empire observed, disappointed but unsurprised. It was not just technology that was tested, but the will to survive. Their technology had made them reliant on precision, and now it was their downfall. After struggling to stay alive in the unforgiving landscape, the species withdrew, defeated. The Empire saw the failure and moved on, convinced that they would find no worthy ally. Another species stepped forward. They were telepathic, their society built on mental prowess and collective psychic ability. The Empire believed this species, known for their vast intelligence and perfect mental coordination, would have no trouble passing the tests. These beings thrived on mental agility, solving complex problems without the need for physical exertion. Surely, their minds were the key to enduring the trials. As the tests escalated to mental endurance, the telepathic species was put to the test. Illusions, deep psychological warfare, and invasive mind games were designed to break the strongest of minds. At first, the telepaths maintained their calm, their psychic connection providing them with a collective defense. But the trials were relentless. One by one, the telepaths began to crack. The psychological assault was too much. They struggled to differentiate between reality and manipulation. Their mental shields, once unbreakable, began to falter under the pressure. Their connection began to weaken, and soon, the once mighty species was broken. The Empire watched in silence as the telepaths collapsed, their minds shattered by the relentless onslaught of the trial. It became clear that even the greatest minds were not invincible. The trials were not just tests of intelligence but tests of emotional endurance and mental resilience. And despite their mental abilities, the telepaths were unable to withstand what Earth's hostile environment could throw at them. The next species to try their luck was a genetically enhanced warrior race, known for their strength, battle-hardened combat skills, and superior physical endurance. Their reputation as the ultimate soldiers was well known across the galaxy. This species had conquered planets, defeated enemies far stronger than themselves, and emerged victorious. The Empire was certain this race would succeed where others had failed. The physical challenges, however, proved far more difficult than expected. The environment was hostile: volcanic landscapes, dense, toxic atmospheres, and violent storms that ravaged the land. While the warriors were strong, their brute force was ineffective against the unforgiving nature of Earth. As the test wore on, the warriors fought valiantly, but the terrain itself seemed determined to break them. Even with their superior strength and battle instincts, they were no match for the environment. One by one, the enhanced warriors fell, unable to survive the unrelenting onslaught of Earth's natural hazards. The Empire could hardly believe their eyes. How could these genetically superior beings, who had defeated armies across the galaxy, be defeated by a mere planet? The warriors, who once thought of themselves as invincible, were now retreating in defeat. The tests had exposed a weakness they hadn't anticipated: Earth's environment didn't care about strength or power. It cared only for survival. The Empire, growing more frustrated with each failure, began to doubt the entire trial. None of the species had passed. The Empire's expectations had been shattered. There seemed to be no one capable of surviving the trials. The trial, meant to showcase the strength and resilience of the galaxy's finest species, was a failure in itself. At this point, the Deathworlders, humans, stepped forward. The Empire had no expectation. Earth, after all, was considered a primitive, dangerous planet. Humans, regarded as one of the weakest species in the galaxy, had no advanced technology or psychic abilities to rely on. The Empire thought this would be a formality. They assumed humans would fail, just like the others. But the humans were different. Earth had shaped them into survivors. They were born into an environment that constantly tested them, pushed them to adapt, and forced them to evolve. Unlike the other species, they didn't rely on technology or mental prowess. They relied on their instincts, their will to survive, and most notably, their sense of humor. As the trials began, the humans approached each challenge with a calm determination, facing the impossible with an unshakable resolve. The extreme environments that had decimated the other species seemed almost trivial to them. While the others faltered, the humans found ways to laugh, to joke, and to keep moving forward. The temperature extremes, dangerous wildlife, and hazardous terrain didn't break them, they embraced it. They had survived Earth's chaos for centuries, and this planet's trials were nothing new. Where others saw failure, the humans saw an opportunity to test themselves further. The more intense the environment became, the more they thrived. As storms raged and the landscape shifted beneath them, they laughed. They found joy in the struggle, in the very act of survival. The Empire watched in disbelief as the humans, with no advanced tools or weapons, defeated the trials with sheer perseverance and humor. When the trials turned to psychological endurance, the humans again defied expectations. They were subjected to emotional manipulation, threats, and mind games meant to break their spirits. But rather than falling apart, the humans found strength in each other. They laughed off the stress, refused to let fear control them, and worked together to endure the most extreme mental challenges. The more the Empire tested them, the more the humans adapted. The more they laughed. The Empire watched as the humans passed every challenge, not because of their strength, technology, or psychic abilities, but because of their resilience. Their refusal to break, their ability to endure without losing hope or sanity, set them apart. The Empire, once certain that the trials would uncover a worthy ally, now found themselves questioning everything. It wasn't strength that made the Deathworlders powerful, it was their will to survive, their resilience, and their unbreakable spirit. By the end of the trials, the humans had proven themselves. They had redefined what it meant to be strong. The Empire, humbled by their performance, had no choice but to acknowledge that the Deathworlders were not only worthy of joining their ranks, they were the very embodiment of true strength. The humans had passed the trials, not through superior technology or mental power, but through an unyielding spirit that would never be broken. The Empire had learned the most valuable lesson of all, that strength is not always about what you can conquer, but what you can endure. And in the end, it was humanity's laughter that echoed through the galaxy as the true symbol of resilience. The trials intensified. The Empire had designed them to break even the strongest species. Each test was meant to push the limits of survival, stretching mental, physical, and emotional endurance beyond what any species had ever faced. As the challenges escalated, the expectation was simple: only the most powerful, most resilient species would emerge victorious. But so far, none had passed. Each one had failed in some way, and the Empire was beginning to lose hope that any species could withstand what Earth's harsh environment demanded. The next challenge was the most brutal yet: survival in extreme conditions where even the air itself was poisonous. The environment was hostile, and the slightest mistake would be fatal. The planet's atmosphere was so toxic that only the strongest of life forms could endure it for any length of time. Every species had struggled, but none had managed to pass. The first to enter, a highly intelligent race, faced the challenge with their usual confidence. They were experts in their field, with technology that could purify the air and protect them from toxins. But even their advanced machines faltered in the face of Earth's unpredictable atmosphere. The technology that had once been their greatest strength now became their downfall. They struggled to adapt, the systems unable to counter the relentless nature of the trial. It was a failure they couldn't have foreseen, and they were forced to retreat. Next, a genetically engineered race of warriors, known across the galaxy for their unmatched strength, was ready. They had been bred for battle, engineered for survival in harsh environments. They believed that their physical prowess would ensure their success in any trial. The Empire was sure they would triumph where others had failed. The test required them to survive in a volcanic region where the heat was unbearable, the terrain constantly shifting, and the threats around every corner. The warriors charged ahead, relying on their strength and combat skills. But the challenge was more than brute force. The ground was unstable, and the environment itself fought back, with lava flows and volcanic eruptions that destroyed their equipment and left them scrambling. The warriors couldn't withstand the conditions, their strength proving insufficient in the face of an environment that could not be overpowered. They were forced to admit defeat, leaving the Empire even more disillusioned. The telepathic species, with their vast mental powers, entered next. The Empire had high hopes for their success. The telepaths could influence minds and adapt their strategies in real time. The trial designed for them was mental and emotional. It was meant to challenge their capacity to stay calm under pressure, to see how they could cope with illusions, manipulation, and intense psychological warfare. At first, the telepaths seemed to handle the challenge well. They were calm, composed, and seemingly immune to the stress. But as the pressure mounted, cracks began to appear. The illusions became more real, the emotional manipulation deeper, and the stress unbearable. The telepaths began to lose control of their mental shields, their once perfect minds unraveling under the strain. They collapsed, unable to continue. The Empire's hopes for this species, too, were dashed. By this point, the Empire was on the verge of abandoning the trials altogether. The thought of finding a worthy species seemed impossible. The Empire had tested the most advanced, most resilient species it could find, yet none had survived the trials. The challenges were unforgiving, and the species had proven unable to handle Earth's brutal tests. The Empire, with its centuries of power, was beginning to doubt its own methods. They had underestimated what it meant to survive on Earth. Then, the humans entered. The Deathworlders, Earth's inhabitants. To the Empire, they were the last hope, the species least likely to succeed, but the only one left. The Empire had seen humans as primitive and weak, unable to match the advanced species that had failed before them. Their technology was no match for the other species. They had no psychic abilities or genetic enhancements. They were the underdogs, the species that other races had long dismissed as insignificant. The Empire barely expected them to make it past the first trial. But the humans proved them wrong. As the first test began, the humans faced the same brutal environment that had decimated the other species. The temperature extremes, dangerous wildlife, and toxic air were designed to break anyone who tried to survive. Yet, the humans seemed to adapt with ease. They didn't rely on advanced machines or psychic powers. Instead, they used their instincts, their ability to adapt, and most remarkably, their humor. The more dangerous the environment became, the more the humans laughed. They didn't panic or succumb to fear. They made jokes, worked together, and thrived. Their approach to survival was unlike anything the Empire had seen. They didn't just face the challenge, they seemed to enjoy it, taking each new hurdle as an opportunity to prove their resilience. When the tests turned to mental and emotional endurance, the humans continued to defy expectations. They faced psychological trials designed to break their spirits. The Empire unleashed illusions, emotional manipulations, and stress-inducing scenarios. While the other species had collapsed under such pressure, the humans laughed. They didn't let the trials break them. They worked through their fears and doubts, using their bond with one another to keep going. They saw the challenges not as threats but as obstacles to overcome. Their ability to endure, to laugh in the face of adversity, became their greatest strength. The tests grew even more difficult, but the humans never wavered. When their physical endurance was tested, they pushed forward with unwavering determination. When their mental and emotional limits were tested, they found strength in each other and in their ability to laugh. The trials, once seen as impossible, became just another obstacle to be overcome. They proved time and again that the trials could not break them. The humans had not only survived, they had redefined what it meant to endure. The Empire, once certain that no species could survive these tests, now stood in awe. The humans had done what no one else could. They had shown the Empire a new definition of strength, one that didn't rely on power, technology, or even psychic ability. It was a strength that came from within, a strength that could not be defeated, no matter the odds. The humans had passed the trials, not with superior technology or skills, but with an unbreakable spirit and a laughter that echoed across the galaxy. The Empire had learned a valuable lesson. Strength was not about the ability to conquer, it was about the ability to endure. And the Deathworlders had shown them that true strength lay in resilience, in adaptability, and in the power to laugh when all seemed lost. The humans stood victorious. After enduring every challenge thrown their way, they had proven something that no other species had: true strength wasn't defined by technology, psychic abilities, or sheer power, but by resilience, adaptability, and the will to survive. The trials, designed to break the strongest and most advanced species, had done nothing to these Deathworlders. Instead, they had faced each obstacle with a defiance that left the Empire speechless. The laughter that had echoed through the trials, a symbol of their refusal to be broken, had shown the galaxy a new way of thinking about strength. The Empire had expected to find an ally capable of matching their power, a species that could provide support in their quest for dominance. Instead, they had discovered something far more valuable: humans had an ability to endure and thrive under conditions that would break even the strongest of warriors. What had once been viewed as humanity's greatest weakness, their reliance on humor, adaptability, and resilience in the face of adversity, had now become their greatest asset. The Empire, with all its technology and power, had learned a humbling lesson. For the Empire, the idea of survival was rooted in control, control over the environment, control over technology, and control over the galaxy. But the humans had shown them that survival wasn't about control at all. It was about the ability to endure, to adapt to the circumstances around you, and to never give up, no matter how impossible the situation seemed. Where other species had relied on strength or intellect, the humans had relied on something far deeper, something that no amount of technology or psychic power could replicate. As the tests came to an end, the Empire's leadership gathered to discuss what had just happened. They had expected the Deathworlders to fail, but instead, they had witnessed an unprecedented display of endurance and spirit. It became clear to them that the humans' greatest strength was their refusal to give in, their ability to face the worst conditions and laugh in the face of death. They had passed the trial, not because they were the most technologically advanced or the strongest, but because they were the most resilient. The Empire had been watching for a species that could be an equal partner in their quest for galactic control, but the humans had shown them that true partnership came from understanding what it meant to struggle, to survive, and to grow stronger with each challenge. The humans had redefined what it meant to be worthy. Their strength wasn't measured by their weapons or their technology, it was measured by their ability to adapt and endure in the most unforgiving of environments. As the Empire extended their offer of alliance to the humans, they could no longer ignore the truth. The Deathworlders, with their laughter and resilience, had become the embodiment of everything the Empire had misunderstood about strength. They were not just survivors, they were masters of endurance. And the galaxy would now be forced to recognize that true power was not in the ability to conquer, but in the ability to rise again, no matter how many times you were knocked down. The humans, once seen as the underdogs, now stood as the galaxy's most formidable allies. They had faced trials designed to break even the strongest civilizations, and they had laughed in the face of those trials. The Empire could no longer deny that the Deathworlders were worthy, not just because they had survived, but because they had redefined what it meant to be truly unbeatable. They were a species that had learned to thrive under the most extreme conditions, and that made them stronger than any technology or psychic ability could ever make them. With their victory, the humans had shifted the balance of power. The Empire had seen them as weak, but now they recognized that the strength they had always valued, power, technology, and control, was nothing compared to the power of resilience, adaptability, and laughter in the face of the impossible. The Deathworlders had proven that they were not just survivors, they were a force that could change the future of the galaxy, not through force, but through an unyielding spirit that could never be broken. In the end, the humans did more than pass the trials. They had changed the very definition of strength in the galaxy. Their laughter, their resilience, their unwavering spirit, had shown the Empire, and the galaxy, that true power wasn't about control or superiority. It was about the ability to endure, adapt, and find joy in the struggle. The Empire now knew that the Deathworlders weren't just worthy of joining them, they were worthy of leading, for they embodied the strength the Empire had always misunderstood. The galaxy had learned that true strength was not in conquest, it was in survival. And the Deathworlders had proven that, time and time again.